"Dad, why aren't you eating?" The question froze Daniel Carter in place. His 10-year-old son, Noah, sat across from him at their tiny kitchen table. A half-empty bowl of macaroni steamed between them. Rain tapped against the apartment window. The power bill sat unopened beside Daniel's elbow. Daniel forced a smile. "I already ate at work." Noah nodded. That answer had become normal. Too normal. For 9 months, every dinner sounded the same. "I already ate. Had a sandwich earlier. Not hungry tonight. Big lunch." Always something. Noah accepted it because he trusted his father. Because children trust the people who keep them alive. But Daniel hadn't eaten since the previous afternoon. His stomach cramped so hard he pressed his forearm against the table to hide it. "Was it good?" Noah asked. "What?" "The food at work." Daniel looked away. "Yeah, pretty good." The lie came easier than he wanted to admit. Noah smiled and returned to eating. Daniel watched every bite. Not with envy, with relief. The boy was growing. His sneakers were getting smaller every month. His appetite seemed endless. And Daniel would have gone hungry for years if it meant Noah never had to. A loud knock interrupted the silence. 3 sharp hits against the apartment door. Daniel's chest tightened immediately. He already knew who it was. Rent. Again. The knocking came a second time. Harder. Noah looked up. "Dad?" Daniel stood slowly. "Finish your dinner." When he opened the door, the building manager stood in the hallway holding a clipboard. His expression wasn't angry anymore. Somehow that was worse. "Daniel, I know. You're 8 weeks behind." Daniel swallowed. "I get paid Friday. You said that last month." The manager sighed. "I've tried helping you, but the owner wants action." Daniel glanced toward the kitchen. Noah couldn't hear. At least he hoped not. "How long?" The manager hesitated. 7 days. Daniel felt the floor disappear beneath him. 7 days. 7 days to find rent. 7 days to avoid losing the only home his son had left. Then the manager quietly handed him an envelope. Official notice. The door closed. Daniel stared at the paper in his hand. His fingers shook. Behind him, Noah's voice floated from the kitchen. "Dad, everything okay?" Daniel looked at the eviction notice, then at the nearly empty refrigerator, then at the unopened power bill, and finally at his son. The only reason he kept getting up every morning. "Yeah, buddy," he said softly. Another lie. And before the week was over, that lie would become impossible to hide. Daniel waited until Noah fell asleep before opening the refrigerator. The light revealed almost nothing. Half a carton of milk, a few eggs, mustard, an old package of hot dogs. That was it. He stared for several seconds, then quietly closed the door. The apartment felt colder than usual, not because of the weather, because reality was finally catching up to him. 3 years earlier, everything had been different. He'd worked full-time at a warehouse. The pay wasn't great, but it covered rent, covered groceries, covered school supplies. Then the company downsized. Daniel survived the first round, not the second. Since then, he'd been piecing together temporary jobs, night shifts, delivery routes, loading trucks, anything that kept money coming in. But prices kept rising faster than his income. Every month felt like a race. He was losing. And every month, he made the same decision. Noah ate first. Always. Daniel sat at the kitchen table and opened his worn notebook. The small black journal nobody knew about. Inside were hundreds of entries. Dates, food purchased, meals skipped, amounts saved. Tiny calculations written in exhausted handwriting. March 12th. Skipped breakfast. Saved $3.25. March 14th. Skipped lunch. Saved $6.4. March 16th. Noah wanted extra fruit for school. Skipped dinner. Saved $8.1. Page after page. Month after month. A record of sacrifices no one would ever see. Or so he thought. Daniel rubbed his eyes. His vision blurred from fatigue. The truth was becoming harder to ignore. Even if he paid rent somehow, even if the light stayed on, he was running out of strength. The constant hunger followed him everywhere. Now, at work, on the bus, even in his sleep. Sometimes he woke imagining the smell of food, only to realize it was a dream. A sharp pain twisted through his stomach. He leaned forward and waited for it to pass. Eventually it did. But another fear remained. What if he got sick? What if he couldn't work? What happened to Noah then? The thought terrified him more than eviction, more than debt, more than hunger. Daniel closed the journal. Across the apartment, Noah's bedroom door remained slightly open, a habit from childhood. He hated sleeping with it fully closed. Daniel stood and walked quietly to the doorway. The boy was asleep beneath a faded blue blanket, one arm hanging off the mattress, breathing peacefully, safe. For now. Daniel watched him for a long moment, then whispered something Noah never heard. "I'm trying, buddy." His voice cracked. "I'm trying as hard as I can." The next morning began before sunrise, and before Daniel reached work, another problem was already waiting for him. Daniel's phone rang while he was riding the bus. The screen showed an unknown number. Normally, he ignored those calls. This time, he answered. "Hello, Daniel Carter?" "Yes. This is Martin from East River Staffing." Daniel sat up straighter. "A staffing agency." His pulse quickened. "We reviewed your application." For the first time in weeks, hope appeared. "We may have a warehouse position available." Daniel gripped the phone tighter. "Really? It's temporary. 30 days. The hope weakened. Still, 30 days was better than nothing. "When can I start?" There was a pause. "That's the problem." Daniel's stomach sank. "The position begins Monday." "Okay, you'll need steel toe boots." Daniel closed his eyes. "Of course. How much?" "Company policy." "How much?" "About $120. Daniel looked out the bus window. He had less than $40 in his account. 120 might as well have been 1,000. "If you get the boots, call us." The line disconnected. Just like that, a lifeline appeared, then drifted out of reach. Daniel leaned back against the seat. Around him, people scrolled through phones, drank coffee, and headed toward ordinary mornings. Nobody knew. He was calculating whether he could afford food or work. Nobody knew eviction sat waiting in his apartment. Nobody knew. His son believed everything was okay. The bus hit a pothole. Daniel's stomach growled loudly. He pressed a hand against it. By the time he arrived at work, he already felt exhausted. The loading dock was busy. Forklifts moved constantly, boxes stacked high along the walls. His supervisor, a heavy-set man named Rick, waved him over. "Carter, morning." Rick didn't smile. "Need to talk." Daniel immediately sensed trouble. The words came before he was ready. "We're cutting hours." His chest tightened. "How many?" "Everybody's taking a hit." "How many?" "About 15 a week." 15. Daniel nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was devastating. 15 fewer hours meant less rent money, less grocery money, less everything. Rick lowered his voice. "I fought for you." Daniel nodded. He believed him. The problem wasn't Rick. The problem was reality. By lunch break, Daniel sat alone outside behind the building. Most workers headed to nearby food trucks. Others unpacked lunches. Daniel pulled out a bottle of water. Nothing else. A younger worker named Kevin sat beside him. "That's all you're having?" Daniel shrugged. "Big breakfast." Another lie. Kevin laughed. "Wish I could skip meals like that." Daniel forced a smile. The smell of burgers drifted across the parking lot. His stomach twisted again. For a moment, dizziness washed over him. He lowered his head until it passed. Then he stood and returned to work. But someone had noticed. And later that afternoon, a conversation Daniel never expected would begin. A conversation that would make him wonder whether Noah knew more than he thought. The conversation happened near the end of Daniel's shift. He was loading boxes onto a pallet when Rick approached. "Take 5. We're behind." "Take 5 anyway." Something in Rick's tone felt different. They moved to a quiet corner of the warehouse. For a moment, neither spoke. "You okay?" Rick asked. "Yeah. No, really, I'm fine." "You've lost weight. You look exhausted." "Just working." "Working doesn't explain all of it." Forklifts beeped. Metal clanged. But Daniel suddenly felt exposed. Like something had been pulled back. "You passed out for 3 seconds today," Rick said. Daniel froze. "What?" "You leaned on a pallet and blacked out." "I'm okay." "Seen a doctor?" "No." "You should." Daniel almost laughed. A doctor meant money. Money meant work. Work meant staying upright. The cycle never ended. Rick pulled out a folded $20 bill. Here. Daniel stepped back. No. Take it. I can't. It's just 20 bucks. I can't. Rick's voice hardened. This isn't charity. Then what is it? A guy helping another guy. Daniel stared. $20 meant meals, milk, bread, maybe Noah's lunches. His throat tightened, but fear stopped him. Accepting it would mean admitting how bad things really were. Rick slipped the money away. Suit yourself, but don't wait until it all crushes you. That night, Daniel stopped at a grocery store with exactly $28. Every item was calculated: bread, peanut butter, milk, pasta, bananas. At checkout, he removed 2 items when the total exceeded his limit. The cashier didn't react, but Daniel noticed anyway. People always noticed. Rain clouds hung low as he walked home, legs aching, stomach hollow. At the apartment door, Noah rushed in, holding a paper. Dad, what's up? My science project got selected for regionals. For a moment, Daniel's exhaustion faded. He hugged him. That's amazing. Then he saw it: registration fee, $45. The smile stayed on his face, but inside something sank again. Another expense. Another impossible choice. That night, Noah talked excitedly while Daniel listened quietly. In his mind, the same question kept looping. Rent, food, electricity, science competition. What could he afford? And what would he have to sacrifice? He didn't know it yet, but Noah was beginning to ask the same kinds of questions. Daniel got home nearly 2 hours later than usual. The moment he stepped through the door, Noah knew something was wrong. His father moved slower, his shoulders sagged, and there was a small tear in the sleeve of his work shirt. What happened? Daniel glanced down. Oh, caught it on a pallet. Are you okay? I'm fine. Another automatic answer. Noah watched him set his backpack down. Then Daniel disappeared into the bathroom. A minute later, Noah heard something strange. Silence. Not movement, not water running, just silence. As if his father was sitting there doing nothing. When Daniel finally came out, his face looked pale. Dad? Yeah. You sure you're okay? Daniel smiled. Getting old, buddy. Noah laughed weakly, but the joke didn't feel real. Dinner that night was pasta. 1 bowl, 1 plate, 1 serving. For Noah, Daniel sat across from him with a glass of water. The same pattern. Again. You aren't eating? I grabbed food on the way home. What kind? Daniel hesitated. Burger. The hesitation lasted only a second, but Noah noticed. Children notice more than adults realize. From where? Just a place near work. Noah nodded slowly. Daniel changed the subject. How's the science project? The conversation moved on, yet the questions remained. Later that evening, Noah worked on his project at the kitchen table. Daniel sat nearby studying bills. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Occasionally, Daniel scribbled numbers onto a sheet of paper, then crossed them out, then started again. Noah pretended not to watch, but he saw everything. The worried expression, the exhausted eyes, the way his father rubbed his forehead over and over. At one point, Daniel whispered something under his breath. Noah couldn't hear it, but whatever it was made him close his eyes. For a long moment, as if he was trying not to break. That night, after Noah went to bed, Daniel opened the black journal again. He wrote carefully, June 17th, skipped breakfast, skipped lunch, skipped dinner. Noah ate well. Worth it. He stared at those last 2 words. Worth it. The truth was simple. Every sacrifice felt worth it when his son smiled. Every missed meal, every lie, every painful decision. Still, he couldn't ignore what was happening to his body anymore. The dizziness was becoming frequent. His hands sometimes shook at work, and earlier that day, when he climbed a flight of stairs, his vision had briefly darkened. Daniel closed the journal. He looked toward Noah's room. The apartment was silent. Just a little longer, he whispered. I'll figure it out. But deep down, he wasn't sure. And while Daniel sat alone fighting fear, another problem was quietly growing. In the darkness of his room, Noah was awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the notebook under the bed, thinking about the lies that no longer sounded convincing, thinking about the question he couldn't stop asking himself. What if Dad wasn't eating at all? The next morning, Noah woke up before his alarm. Daniel was already in the kitchen, standing beside the stove, holding a coffee mug. Nothing else. No breakfast. No toast. No eggs. Just coffee. Noah paused in the hallway. Dad? Daniel turned quickly. Morning, buddy. Aren't you eating? Already did. The answer came instantly. Too instantly. Noah frowned. At 6 in the morning? Daniel smiled. Was hungry. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Noah nodded and sat down. But something felt different. For months, he had accepted those explanations without thinking. Now, he found himself noticing things. Little things. His father never packed lunches. His father never finished leftovers. His father always claimed he had eaten somewhere else. At work. Earlier. On the way home. With a friend. The reasons changed. The result never did. Daniel slid a plate toward him. 2 scrambled egg, toast, a sliced banana. Big day, Daniel said. You need energy. Noah stared at the plate, then at his father's empty hands. Want some? Daniel shook his head. Nope. The answer felt rehearsed. Noah quietly started eating, but a question had planted itself in his mind, and it wasn't going away. At school, he struggled to focus. His science project should have been all he thought about. Instead, memories kept replaying. Dad saying he already ate. Dad skipping dinner. Dad drinking water while Noah finished meals. Dad pretending not to be hungry. By afternoon, Noah felt guilty. Maybe he was imagining things. Maybe adults just ate differently. Maybe he was being weird. Yet the feeling remained. When school ended, he walked home through a chilly wind. The apartment was empty. Daniel wouldn't return for hours. Noah dropped his backpack near the couch. That's when he noticed something unusual. His father's bedroom door was open. Daniel almost always kept it closed. Not locked, just closed. Noah wasn't trying to snoop. At least not at first. He simply walked past, then stopped. A black notebook sat partially visible beneath the bed, the edge poking out. Nothing special, just a notebook. Still, something about it caught his attention. Maybe because he had never seen it before. Maybe because it looked hidden. Noah stared for several seconds, then shook his head. No, he turned away. It wasn't his. His father deserved privacy. The matter should have ended there. But as he walked back toward the living room, another memory surfaced. The eviction notice. 7 days. Noah hadn't heard every word, only pieces. Enough to know something was wrong. Enough to know his father had looked scared. Really scared. A feeling settled heavily in his chest. For the first time in his life, Noah wondered whether his father was protecting him from something bigger than he understood. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside the apartment, the black notebook remained beneath the bed, waiting, and before the week was over, Noah would open it. What he found inside would change the way he saw his father forever. The next day was Friday, payday, the day Daniel had been waiting for, the day that was supposed to solve something, anything. Instead, it became another reminder of how far behind he had fallen. During lunch break, Daniel sat on a concrete barrier outside the warehouse and opened his banking app. His paycheck had arrived. He stared at the number, then started subtracting. Electric bill, past due rent, phone payment, bus pass, groceries. The money disappeared before he even touched it. When he finished calculating, less than $70 remained. 70. Daniel let out a slow breath. A week ago, payday had felt like relief. Now, it barely delayed disaster. His phone vibrated. A text from the building manager. Need update today. Owner asking questions. Daniel locked the screen. For several seconds, he simply sat there. A truck rumbled past. Workers laughed nearby. Life continued normally for everyone else. For him, it felt like standing on thin ice, one crack away from everything collapsing. That evening, he stopped by the rental office. The manager looked exhausted. How much do you have? Daniel slid an envelope across the desk. The manager counted silently, then looked up. That's not enough. I know. You still owe over a month. I know. The manager rubbed his face. I don't want to do this, Daniel. Daniel believed him. The man wasn't cruel, just stuck between orders and reality. Can you give me more time? How much? A few weeks. The manager shook his head. I can't promise that. Daniel felt his stomach drop. What does that mean? It means the owner is losing patience. The room went quiet. Finally, the manager asked, "Do you have family?" "No." "Friends?" "Not really." "Anyone who can help?" Daniel answered immediately, "No." The manager nodded sadly. "Then you need a backup plan." Backup plan. The phrase followed Daniel home. Because he didn't have one. No relatives. No savings. No second apartment waiting. Just him and Noah, and a future that suddenly looked frighteningly uncertain. When he opened the apartment door, he pushed those thoughts away. Noah sat at the kitchen table working on his science project. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, buddy. How was work?" "Good." Lie. "How was school?" "Good." Not entirely true either. Both smiled. Both hid things. Neither realized how much the other was carrying. Later that night, Daniel fell asleep in a chair reviewing bills. The television glowed softly. A blanket had slipped from his shoulder. Noah carefully pulled it back over him. Then he noticed a receipt sticking out of Daniel's pocket. Curious, he glanced at it. Bread, milk, peanut butter, bananas. Nothing unusual, except for one detail. There was nothing on it that Daniel himself could have eaten for dinner. And suddenly, the question bothering Noah for days felt much bigger. For the first time, he started wondering whether his father had been lying for far longer than anyone realized. Saturday morning arrived with heavy rain. Water streaked down the apartment windows while thunder rolled in the distance. Daniel woke before Noah. His back hurt from sleeping in the chair. For a few seconds, he simply sat there, listening. The refrigerator humming, rain tapping against the glass, the quiet breathing coming from Noah's room. Then reality returned. Rent, bills, food, work, the endless list waiting for him. He stood carefully so he wouldn't wake his son. The room spun for a moment. A sudden wave of dizziness. Daniel grabbed the edge of the table, closed his eyes, waited. Eventually, it passed, but it scared him more than he wanted to admit. When Noah entered the kitchen 20 minutes later, Daniel was already making pancakes. Only 3, exactly enough for one person. Noah noticed immediately. "Those look good." Daniel smiled. "They're all yours." "Dad." "What? Aren't you having any?" "I ate while cooking." Noah stared at him. The answer arrived too quickly again. For the first time, he didn't respond. Daniel noticed the silence. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." But Noah's voice sounded distant. The meal continued awkwardly. Neither understood how close they were to a confrontation neither of them wanted. Around noon, Daniel left for a short delivery job. The moment the apartment door closed, Noah sat alone in the living room. Rain continued outside. The black notebook returned to his thoughts. He tried focusing on homework. Couldn't. Tried working on the science project. Couldn't. The questions were too loud. Now, finally, he stood, slowly, his heart beating faster than it should, then walked toward Daniel's bedroom. The door stood slightly open, just as it had earlier in the week. Noah hesitated at the entrance. This felt wrong. His father trusted him. Good sons didn't invade privacy. He knew that. Yet another thought followed. What if Dad needs help? What if something is really wrong? The room felt unusually quiet. Noah stepped inside. The notebook remained beneath the bed, partially hidden, waiting. He knelt down, reached underneath, and pulled it free. A plain black journal. Nothing special on the cover. No name, no label, no lock. His hands suddenly felt shaky. Maybe he should put it back. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe. A folded paper slipped from between the pages and landed on the floor. Noah picked it up. It was a grocery list. Every item had a price written beside it. Some were crossed out, others circled. At the bottom was a handwritten note. "Noah needs lunch money Monday." Nothing else. Noah swallowed. A strange feeling formed in his chest. Then he opened the journal. Just one page. Just enough to understand what it was. And within seconds, his entire world began to change. The first page Noah opened wasn't dramatic. There were no secrets, no shocking confessions, just numbers, dates, food. At first, none of it made sense. Then he looked closer. March 3rd, skipped breakfast, saved $2.7. March 4th, skipped lunch, saved $5.1. March 5th. Noah wanted apples, skipped dinner, saved $7.8. Noah frowned. His eyes moved down the page. Then the next, and the next. The entries continued, day after day, week after week, month after month. Every page showed the same pattern. Meals Daniel didn't eat, money Daniel saved, all connected to one purpose. Noah. His breathing slowed, then became uneven. He turned another page. April 18th. Noah outgrew shoes, skipped meals all week, worth it. May 2nd. School field trip payment due. Noah excited, skipped lunches until Friday, worth it. May 29th. Electric bill overdue. Noah never noted. Good, worth it. Something tightened painfully inside Noah's chest. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet. Rain tapped softly against the windows. Somewhere outside, car passed. Inside the bedroom, Noah kept reading. His hands trembled. June 1st. Noah asked why I don't eat dinner. Told him I already ate. Hated lying. June 5th. Almost told him the truth. Couldn't do it. Kids shouldn't carry adult worries. June 10th. Stomach hurts constantly now. Need to be careful. Noah stopped. Read that line again. And again. Need to be careful. A sick feeling spread through him. For months, he had believed his father simply wasn't hungry. For months, he had accepted every excuse. For months, he had eaten while Daniel sat across from him with a glass of water. Not because Daniel had already eaten. Because Daniel hadn't. A tear landed on the page. Then another. Then another. Suddenly, memories flooded back. The empty plate. The coffee breakfasts. The skipped dinners. The tired eyes. The weight loss. The dizziness. The lies. All of it finally made sense. His father wasn't saving money here and there. His father was starving himself. For him. Noah covered his mouth. A quiet sob escaped. Anyway, he had never felt guilt like this before. Not because he'd done something wrong. Because he hadn't known. Because every bite had cost his father something. He turned to the latest entry. The handwriting looked shakier. June 17th. Skipped breakfast. Skipped lunch. Skipped dinner. Noah ate well. Worth it. That was it. No complaint. No anger. No self-pity. Just 3 words. Worth it. Noah stared through blurred vision. For a long moment he couldn't move. Then another folded paper slipped from the journal. An eviction notice. 7 days. Past due rent. Legal action pending. His hands started shaking harder. Food. Rent. Bills. His science competition. His shoes. Everything. His father had been carrying all of it alone. And suddenly, Noah understood something terrifying. Daniel wasn't just struggling. He was losing. The front door lock clicked. Noah's head snapped toward the hallway. Dad was home. And in that moment, Noah had no idea how he was supposed to look his father in the eyes. The journal slipped from Noah's hands. For a second, panic took over. He shoved the eviction notice back between the pages, closed the notebook, pushed it under the bed, then quickly wiped his face. The apartment door opened. "Buddy?" Daniel's voice echoed from the hallway. Noah stood frozen. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. "Yeah," he called back. "You home?" "Yeah." Footsteps approached. Noah hurried into the living room just as Daniel appeared carrying a small grocery bag. His father smiled. The same tired smile. The same smile Noah had seen 1,000 times. Only now it looked different. Now, he could see the exhaustion behind it. The effort. The pain. "Everything okay?" Daniel asked. Noah forced himself to nod. "Yeah." Daniel studied him. "Sure? Just working on school stuff." Another lie. For the first time in his life, Noah understood how difficult lying could be. Daniel set the grocery bag on the counter. Inside were bread, milk, and noodles. No snacks. No treats. Nothing extra. Just survival. Noah suddenly realized he had never paid attention to groceries before. Now, every item felt meaningful. Every dollar visible. Every sacrifice obvious. "Guess what?" Daniel said. "What?" "I found a way to cover your science competition, Effie." Noah blinked. "What?" Daniel smiled. "It'll be tight, but we'll make it work." The words hit Noah like a punch. Because he had seen the eviction notice, He knew there wasn't enough money, yet somehow, his father was still trying to protect the one thing Noah cared about. Still choosing him, still sacrificing. Noah looked away before tears returned. How? Daniel shrugged. I'll figure it out. Noah almost told him everything. About the journal, about the entries, about knowing the truth. But the words stayed trapped inside him. That evening, they worked on the science project together. Daniel helped cut cardboard, helped glue sections into place, helped test a small experiment. For a while, things felt normal, almost, until Daniel stood up too quickly. The room spun. Noah saw it happen, saw his father grab the edge of the table, saw him steady himself, saw the brief look of fear cross his face. Dad, I'm okay. The answer came immediately, but Noah knew better now. Hours later, after dinner, another dinner, Daniel didn't eat. Noah lay awake in bed. The journal replayed endlessly in his mind. Skipped breakfast, skipped lunch, skipped dinner, worth it. Again and again. Finally, he sat up. His eye burned, his chest felt heavy, and a decision slowly formed. For months, his father had been protecting him. For months, Daniel had carried everything alone. Maybe that needed to stop. Maybe it was time somebody helped Dad. The problem was simple. Noah was only 10 years old. He had no money, no job, no way to fix rent, no way to erase debt. But as he stared into the darkness, another thought appeared. Small, risky, and maybe a little foolish. Yet it was the first plan he'd had. And by Monday morning, he would decide to act on it, even if it meant keeping a secret of his own. Monday morning arrived, gray and cold. Daniel woke before sunrise and quietly got ready for work. He moved carefully, trying not to wake Noah, but Noah was already awake, lying in bed, thinking, planning, worrying. The journal had changed everything. Every time he looked at his father now, he saw things he had missed before. The loose work pants, the dark circles beneath his eyes, the way he paused before standing, the way he rubbed his stomach when nobody was watching. Those weren't random things. They were signs, and Noah couldn't unsee them. At breakfast, Daniel poured cereal into a bowl. One bowl, for Noah, then poured himself a cup of coffee. Nothing else. Big science test today? Daniel asked. Not today. Oh, Daniel smiled. Guess I'm losing track. Noah looked at the coffee, then at his father. Dad? Yeah? When's the last time you ate breakfast? For a split second, Daniel froze. Only a split second, but Noah noticed. Then the smile returned. Yesterday. Lie. Noah knew it immediately. Daniel took a sip of coffee. Conversation over. Or so he hoped. A few minutes later, they headed outside. Rain clouds still covered the sky. The walk to school was quiet. Normally they talked. Today, both were trapped inside their own thoughts. At the entrance, Daniel knelt slightly. Have a good day. You too. Then something unexpected happened. Noah hugged him first, tightly. Daniel looked surprised. Everything okay? Yeah. Noah held on another second, then stepped back. Daniel smiled. Love you, buddy. Love you too. The words sounded normal, but Noah suddenly felt emotional hearing them, because now he understood what those words had cost. Daniel walked away toward the bus stop. Noah watched until he disappeared, then headed inside. Throughout the day, he barely focused on lessons. His mind stayed fixed on one question. How could he help? He wasn't old enough for a real job, couldn't pay rent, couldn't buy groceries. But maybe there was something else. During lunch, he sat beside his friend Marcus. Marcus noticed immediately. You look weird. Thanks. You know what I mean. Noah hesitated. He couldn't reveal everything. The journal wasn't his secret to share. Still, I think my dad's having money problems. Marcus shrugged. My uncle sells stuff online when he needs cash. What kind of stuff? Anything. The answer seemed simple, but it stayed with Noah. Anything. After school, Noah walked home alone. The apartment was empty, quiet. For the first time, he looked around differently, not as a kid, as someone searching for solutions. Books, old electronics, tools, furniture, anything. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Then his eyes landed on a dusty box in the corner closet. A box Daniel hadn't opened in years. Noah recognized it immediately. His father's old collection, things from before life got hard. And suddenly an idea began forming. A dangerous one. Because if Noah was right about what was inside that box, it might be worth more money than either of them realized. Noah stared at the box for a long time. Dust clung to its edges like it had been waiting years to be disturbed. He pulled it from the closet and carried it to the living room. It was heavier than expected. The apartment felt different now, not like home, like a place filled with hidden answers. He opened the lid. Inside were old items, carefully kept. A worn digital camera, unused notebooks, a small toolbox, and beneath it all, a sealed envelope. Noah hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a certificate. Daniel Carter, forklift operator certification. Expired. Noah didn't fully understand it, but he understood one thing. It meant better work, higher pay. He set it aside and kept searching. The camera still worked. He pressed the power button. Battery low, but alive. He scrolled through old photos, warehouse images. Daniel younger, smiling, standing with coworkers, happy, healthy, different. Then he noticed a flash drive tucked inside a pocket. Files, information, maybe something useful. He rushed to Daniel's desk and plugged it into the old computer. The screen loaded slowly, then folders appeared. Work records, training files, old job applications, and one folder labeled, Resume Updated. Noah clicked it. A resume opened. Daniel Carter, skills, experience. At the bottom, a job offer letter draft, higher salary, full-time position, pending submission. Noah's breathing slowed. This wasn't random. This was a path, a better job, a better life. But it was never sent. He scrolled further. An email draft. Request for promotion review. Status, unsent. Then he found a text file. Only a few lines. I can apply again once things stabilize. I need to make sure Noah is okay first. Later. Noah stared at the screen. Later. That one word explained everything. His father hadn't failed. He had delayed himself, pushed his own life aside. For Noah, all the sacrifice suddenly had context. It wasn't just hunger. It wasn't just bills. It was years of choices where Daniel always chose his son over himself. A sound from the hallway made Noah close the laptop. Footsteps. Daniel was home early. Noah shoved everything back into the box and closed the lid. Daniel stepped inside, tired, worn down, but still smiling. Hey, buddy. Noah looked at him differently now, not as a confused kid, but as someone who finally understood the weight his father carried. Hey, Dad. Daniel glanced at the box. Why is that out? Noah froze. Just cleaning. Daniel nodded slowly, but his eyes lingered on the closet. Something felt off. Parents always knew. Before he could ask more, his phone rang. He answered. Then his face changed. This is the rental office. Noah watched as Daniel stepped away and slowly closed the bedroom door behind him. But this time, Noah didn't stay out of it. This time, he moved closer, because whatever was about to happen was going to change everything again. Noah stood outside the half-closed bedroom door. He didn't mean to listen, but the silence on the other side made it impossible not to. Daniel's voice was low, controlled, strained. I understand. Yes, I know I'm behind. A pause. Noah held his breath. Then, Daniel continued. I just need one more week. Another silence. Longer this time. Rain tapped softly against the window. Then the voice returned. Muffled, distant, firm. Noah couldn't hear the words, but he saw his father's shoulders drop, like something inside him had finally given way. I see, Daniel said quietly. That tone scared Noah more than shouting. The tone of someone accepting what they didn't want to accept. Daniel ended the call. For a moment, he didn't move, then slowly sat on the edge of the bed. Head lowered, elbows on his knees. Noah stepped closer. A floorboard creaked. Daniel looked up. Buddy? Noah froze. I heard the phone. Daniel closed his eyes briefly, then forced a smile. It's nothing. But Noah didn't believe that anymore. Daniel stood too quickly. The room tilted. He grabbed the wall. No one noticed. Dad, sit down. I'm fine. You're not. Silence filled the room. Heavy, real. Daniel looked at his son. Something was breaking behind his eyes. Not weakness. Exhaustion. Years of it. Finally, he spoke. We might have to move. Noah's stomach dropped. When? I don't know. Why? Rent's too far behind. Noah already knew, but hearing it aloud made it real. Where will we go? Daniel didn't answer. That delay was the answer. I'll figure it out. Noah shook his head. No. Daniel frowned. What? You always say that. A pause. But you're not okay. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it. For once, he had no answer. I saw something. Daniel's face changed instantly. What did you see? Noah hesitated. The box, the files, the journal, everything. Instead he said, you used to have better jobs. Daniel went still. No denial, just silence. You could still get them. It's not that simple. It is. No, it's not. The words came sharper than intended. Then Daniel softened. Things changed. No, Noah said quietly. You changed. That hit differently. For a moment, the mask slipped. I didn't choose this. Yes, you did. Noah, you chose me. Silence, love, sacrifice, pain, everything in one sentence. Daniel's voice broke. I would choose you again. I know. Then, more quietly, but I don't want you to disappear because of me. Daniel turned away. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, everything felt closer to collapse. And neither realized the hardest decision wasn't about rent anymore. It was whether Daniel could stop sacrificing himself before it was too late. Daniel stayed turned away for a long moment. The silence between them wasn't empty anymore. It was full of everything they had never said out loud. Finally, he spoke. Come sit. Noah slowly walked over and sat beside him. A small space remained between them, like Daniel was afraid to break something fragile. Rain intensified outside. Daniel stared at the floor. When you were born, he said quietly, promised myself one thing. Noah looked at him, that you would never feel what I felt growing up. A pause. I didn't have much. His voice tightened. I used to skip meals too. Noah's chest tightened. But I was alone, Daniel said. You're not. I don't feel alone. Daniel gave a faint smile. That's because I worked very hard to make it look that way. Silence. Then Daniel turned toward him. I didn't ruin my life, Noah. A breath. I redirected it. Noah frowned. What's the difference? One means I lost control. The other means I chose you on purpose. Noah looked down. I didn't ask you to. I know. Daniel leaned back slightly. Exhaustion showed in every line of his face. But you needed me. Noah couldn't argue. Then he spoke quietly. I saw the journal. Daniel went still. Not angry. Not shocked. Just still. How much? Enough. Daniel closed his eyes. A long breath escaped. I didn't want you to know. I know. I thought if I could handle it until things got better, you wouldn't feel it. Noah looked at him. But I did feel it. Daniel nodded slowly. I see that now. Thunder rolled outside. Then Noah said something unexpected. I don't want the science competition anymore. Daniel looked at him immediately. What? I don't care about it. That's not true. It is. Daniel shook his head. You've been excited about it for weeks. Noah's voice trembled. I don't want it if it makes you like this. That line broke something in Daniel's expression. I'm already like this, he said quietly. Silence. Then Noah asked, are we going to lose the apartment? Daniel didn't answer. That was the answer. Okay, not acceptance. Understanding too early. Daniel suddenly stood and paced once across the room. No, he said firmly. We are not done. Noah looked up. I made mistakes delaying things. A breath. But I still have options. What options? Daniel hesitated, then said, I'm going to fix this properly. For the first time in days, something different entered his voice. Not hope, not denial, decision. But neither realized that decision would lead them into the hardest 48 hours of their lives. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table with the old laptop open, the same one Noah had used earlier. The screen glow reflected in his tired eyes. Outside, the rain had finally slowed. Inside, something heavier was building. Noah stood in the hallway watching him. Dad? Daniel didn't look up immediately. Yeah, buddy. You should sleep. A faint smile appeared. Soon, Noah walked closer. Daniel quickly angled the laptop away. Too late. Are you looking for jobs? Daniel paused. Yes. Noah sat across from him. I can help. No. The answer came too quickly. Why not? Because you're 10. That doesn't matter. It does. Noah leaned forward. I found the box. Daniel froze. The room went still. Slowly, he closed the laptop. What box? The old one. Daniel's jaw tightened. You weren't supposed to see that. I know. A pause. But I did. Daniel rubbed his face. Not anger. Exhaustion. You had a better job lined up, Noah said. Daniel looked up sharply. You could still get it. Daniel stood and walked to the sink, gripping the edge. You don't understand what that would have required. Then explain it. Daniel turned slowly. If I took that job, I would have had to move cities. Noah listened. I'd be gone more. A breath. Less time with you. Silence. I chose to stay close, so I could be here. With you. Noah swallowed. But you're not really here. The words landed hard. Daniel looked ready to argue, but couldn't. I don't need perfect, Noah said quietly. I need you. Daniel closed his eyes. His hands trembled. He had spent so long trying to be everything that he was slowly becoming nothing. Then his phone rang. Daniel answered immediately. This is the warehouse. His posture changed. Yes, we need you in early tomorrow. It's not optional. Someone quit. We're short-handed. Daniel glanced at Noah. Okay. The call ended. The room felt morning came too fast. Daniel was already halfway out the door when Noah appeared in the hallway. You're up early, Daniel said, adjusting his jacket. Noah nodded. Couldn't sleep. Daniel studied him for a moment. Something about his son felt different again, but there was no time to think about it. I'll be back late. Extra shift. Noah nodded. Okay, that word again. Too calm, too controlled. Daniel hesitated. You sure you're all right? Noah forced a small smile. Yeah. Daniel nodded, though he didn't fully believe it. Lock the door. Then he left. The click of the lock echoed through the apartment. Silence followed. Noah stood there listening until the footsteps disappeared. Then he moved. Fast. Focused. He went straight to Daniel's closet. Pulled out the old box again. But this time, he wasn't searching randomly. He knew exactly what he wanted. The flash drive. The resume. The email draft. Anything connected to the job Daniel had once refused. His hands shook slightly as he opened the laptop. The files appeared again. Then Noah noticed something new. A folder labeled Contacts. Inside were names, phone numbers, emails, companies. One stood out. A hiring manager, still active. Noah stared at it, then quickly wrote the information onto a piece of paper. He didn't fully understand what he was doing, but he understood urgency. If his father wouldn't reach for help, maybe someone else could. A door that had never fully closed. He grabbed the phone, dialed the number. His hand trembled as it rang. Once, twice, a click. Hello? A professional voice answered. Noah froze, then forced himself to speak. Hi, my dad is Daniel Carter. A pause. Who is this? I'm his son. Silence. Then the man replied. I remember Daniel. Noah's heart jumped. He was offered a supervisor position last year. Noah nodded, even though the man couldn't see him. Yes. He didn't take it. I know. Another pause. Then Noah said the words he'd rehearsed all night. He needs it now. Silence. Longer this time. Then the man asked, why didn't he apply again? Noah hesitated. Because the truth was complicated. Because the answer involved rent, food, bills, sacrifice. A father who chose survival over promotion. Finally, Noah said, because he stayed to take care of me. The silence that followed felt different, less professional, more human. Then the man spoke. Have him call me. Noah's eyes widened. Really? Yes. A pause. And kid? Yeah, your dad is a good worker. Something tightened in Noah's chest. I know. The call ended. Noah slowly lowered the phone. For the first time in days, something broke through the fear. Possibility. But it came with a new problem. Daniel would be home soon, and Noah had just crossed a line he could never uncross. The question now wasn't whether help existed, it was whether Daniel would ever forgive him for reaching for it. Daniel came home later than expected. His steps were heavier this time, not just tired, drained. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't leave after rest. Noah heard the door open and quickly shut the laptop. He had barely moved since the call. His heart was still unsettled. Daniel walked in slowly. He looked at Noah, then around the room. Something felt slightly off. You didn't go out? No. Good. Daniel set down his keys and rubbed his neck. Long day, long week. A pause. They're pushing everyone harder. Noah nodded. Daniel opened the fridge, stared inside, then closed it. No food prepared, no energy to cook, just silence. Noah watched him carefully. Every movement seemed slower, more fragile. Dad. Daniel turned. Yeah. Noah hesitated, then said it. I called someone. Daniel stopped completely. What? Noah stood. I called a job contact. Silence. Daniel stared at him. Then, you what? I found the old contact list. I called one of them. Shock crossed Daniel's face. Then something sharper. You went through my things? Noah nodded. I had to. No, you didn't. You weren't going to do it. That's not your decision. Noah's voice rose. Then what is? Watching you collapse? The words hit hard. Daniel turned away, ran a hand through his hair. You don't understand what you just did. I understand enough. No, you don't. His voice remained controlled, but barely. That job, that position, would have changed everything. Then why didn't you take it? Silence. Long, painful. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it. Noah answered quietly. Because of me. Daniel looked down. That was answer enough. I talked to them. Daniel looked up sharply. You what? They said call them. Daniel froze. His certainty cracked. You did not do that. I did. Another silence. The kind that changes lives. Daniel sat down slowly on the couch, like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. Noah waited for anger, for shouting, for rejection. None came. Instead, Daniel said quietly, you should not have carried this. You shouldn't be carrying it alone. The sentence hung between them, heavy, true. Daniel covered his face with his hands. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded different. I was trying to protect you from this world. Noah replied softly. I live in it too. Something shifted, not fixed, not solved, changed. Daniel looked at his son again, really looked, and saw what he'd been avoiding. Noah wasn't just a child anymore. He was a witness to everything, maybe even a partner in survival. Daniel stood, walked to the phone, stared at it, then at Noah. You're sure about this? Noah nodded. Yes. A long breath left Daniel. Then he picked up the phone, and for the first time in months, he stopped postponing his own life. Daniel didn't dial immediately. His thumb hovered over the screen, still, silent. Noah stood a few steps away, watching every second stretch painfully. Outside, evening light faded into gray. The apartment felt smaller than usual. Finally, Daniel exhaled and pressed call. It rang once, twice, then a click. Hello, this is Mark. Daniel's grip tightened slightly on the phone. It's Daniel Carter. A pause. Then the voice changed. Daniel, I didn't expect you to call. Daniel glanced at Noah. Noah held his breath. I know, Daniel said quietly. I should have called sooner. Silence on the line. Then Mark spoke again. Are you ready to talk about the position? Daniel hesitated. That question carried weight. Not just about work. About everything he had avoided for months. I am, Daniel said. Noah's shoulders loosened slightly, but Daniel wasn't relaxed. Not even close. Mark's voice became more direct. That supervisor role is still open. Not for long. Daniel swallowed. I understand. Why now? That question hit harder than expected. Daniel looked at Noah again, then away. Because I finally stopped pretending I could handle everything alone. A pause. Longer this time. Then Mark said, come in tomorrow. Daniel blinked. Tomorrow? Yes. We'll reevaluate you, but I need you physically present. Daniel nodded slowly. Okay. Call ended. The silence that followed was different, not heavy with fear, but heavy with consequence. Noah spoke first. Is it good? Daniel didn't answer immediately, then nodded. Yes. Noah let out a breath. He didn't realize he was holding, for the first time in days. Something felt like it was moving forward instead of collapsing. But Daniel didn't smile. Instead, he walked to the window, looked out at the fading light. I almost didn't take that call, he said quietly. Noah stood beside him. Why? Daniel paused. Because once you accept help, you admit you needed it all along. Noah looked at him. But you did need it. Daniel didn't deny it. That silence said enough. After a moment, Daniel turned. Pack a small bag, he said. Noah frowned. Why? We might need to stay somewhere temporarily. The words landed differently this time. Not panic. Preparation. Noah nodded slowly. Okay, but as he moved toward his room, Daniel called softly after him. Noah. He stopped. Yes. Daniel hesitated, then said something he rarely said without hesitation. Thank you. Noah looked back. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, the distance between father and son felt smaller than it had in months. But neither of them knew what the next day would bring. And sometimes, a single day is enough to change everything again. Morning arrived too quickly. Daniel barely slept. He sat on the couch, staring at the floor. The small bag Noah packed rested near the door, too light for everything they were carrying. Noah watched him quietly. Did you sleep? A little. Another lie. This time Noah said nothing. Instead, he handed Daniel a glass of water. Ready? Daniel asked. Noah nodded. They left together. The bus ride felt different. Not peaceful. Not fixed. Just uncertain. Finally, the building appeared. East River Staffing. Daniel paused outside. You okay? Noah asked. Just thinking. About what? How many times I almost didn't come here. They went inside. The waiting room was quiet. Daniel filled out a form. Then they waited. Minutes stretched. Noah's leg bounced nervously. You don't have to be here, Daniel said. I want to be. That ended the argument. A door opened. A middle-aged man stepped out. Mark. His eyes moved from Daniel to Noah. You came. Yes. Mark gestured toward his office. Inside, he sat down and studied Daniel. I reviewed your file. Daniel nodded. You were one of our strongest workers. A pause. Then you disappeared. Daniel's jaw tightened. I had responsibilities. We all do. Silence. Mark glanced at Noah. This your son? Yes. Mark nodded, then got straight to the point. I'm offering you the supervisor role again. Noah's breath caught. Daniel remained still, but conditions changed. Daniel nodded slowly. I understand. You'll need relocation within 2 months. Silence. Distance. Change. Everything Daniel had avoided. This isn't charity, Mark said. It's your work. Daniel finally spoke. If I accept, I need time to arrange my son. That's reasonable. Then Mark added, but the offer won't stay open forever. Silence settled again. Daniel looked at Noah. Noah looked back. No words, just understanding. Everything had led here. Daniel stood. I need a moment. Outside in the hallway, he looked at his son. This changes everything. I know. I don't want to lose you again. You're not losing me. A pause. You're just changing where we live. Daniel stared at him. Then Noah added softly, as long as we're together. That was enough. Not a solution, a decision. Something shifted inside Daniel. Not relief. Acceptance. I'll take it. Noah smiled. Inside the office, Mark was waiting. And when Daniel walked back in, he wasn't the same man who entered that building. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't surviving anymore. He was choosing. Mark didn't smile when Daniel spoke. He only nodded. Good. One word. Heavy with consequence. He slid a folder across the desk. This is your offer. Salary, schedule, relocation timeline. Daniel didn't open it immediately. Not because of the job. Because of what it meant beyond it. Noah sat quietly beside him, watching. You'll start next week if the paperwork clears, Mark continued. Daniel opened the folder. Numbers, terms. A future reduced to bullet points. Then one line caught his attention. Relocation assistance included. He paused. That mattered more than he expected. Closing the folder, he said, "I accept." "Good decision," Mark replied. "Let's finalize everything tomorrow." The meeting ended quickly, too quickly for something that would change their lives. Outside, the air felt different, lighter, unfamiliar. They walked in silence until the bus stopped. Then Noah asked, "Is it really happening?" "Yes." Noah nodded. "Where do we go now?" Daniel looked down the street. For months, every answer had been about survival. Now it was about rebuilding. "I don't know yet," he admitted, "but we'll figure it out together." That was enough. The bus arrived. They sat side by side, moving forward at last. On the ride home, Daniel leaned back, exhaustion catching up to him. "You should sleep," Noah said softly. "Soon." This time Noah didn't argue. Back at the apartment, everything felt strangely still. Not empty, just paused. Daniel set down his bag and looked around. This place had carried them through hunger, fear, sacrifice, and love. Noah disappeared into his room. Daniel stayed behind and opened the black journal, the one Noah had found. He turned the pages slowly, feeling the weight of every entry, every skipped meal, every worth it. At the final page, beneath June 17, new words appeared, written in Noah's small handwriting. "I know now." Daniel stared at them for a long time before closing the journal. Not because the story was over, because it was no longer hidden. Later that night, Noah found him sitting on the living room floor, not broken, not lost, just still. "Are you okay?" Noah asked. Daniel thought carefully, then answered, "No." A pause. "But I will be." Noah nodded. Outside, night settled over the city. Inside, father and son sat together in silence, not running from anything anymore, just facing whatever came next, together. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. The next morning didn't feel like victory. It felt like transition. Daniel stood in the kitchen staring at the same walls, but everything now had a different weight to it. The acceptance letter was still on the table, not opened again, not needed. Noah walked in quietly. He looked at his father, then at the paper. "Are we leaving soon?" Noah asked. Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, but not today." A pause. "Soon." Noah didn't ask more. He just sat down. Daniel poured cereal into 2 bowls this time. Small change. Noticeable change. Noah watched it without smiling. Because change didn't erase what came before. It only added uncertainty on top of it. Daniel broke the silence. "I have to go back tomorrow. Paperwork, housing support, relocation details." Noah nodded, then softly asked, "Will the apartment still be ours?" Daniel hesitated. For now, that word mattered. For now meant everything and nothing at the same time. Outside, the city felt normal, but inside this small space, nothing was normal anymore, and both of them knew it. Daniel picked up his bag, paused at the door, looked back at Noah. "Stay inside today, okay?" Noah nodded, but Daniel didn't notice the slight change in Noah's expression. Not agreement, not obedience, something else. Understanding. Daniel left early that morning, but Noah didn't stay still. The moment the door closed, the apartment felt different. Quieter, not safer. Noah stood in the hallway listening until the building settled into silence. Then he moved. Not like a child looking for trouble, like someone trying to understand a life he'd lived inside without fully seeing. He went to the kitchen first. The cereal Daniel had prepared still sat there, half untouched. Noah looked at it, then pushed it aside. He wasn't hungry. In the living room, the black journal rested openly on the shelf. Daniel no longer hid it. That didn't make it easier to see. Noah picked it up and opened to a random page. Skipped breakfast. Saved $3.1. Another page. Skipped lunch. Saved $5.4. Then another. He closed his eyes briefly. The shock was gone. The pain wasn't. Before, it had been discovery. Now, it was confirmation. He flipped to the final entries. The handwriting looked weaker there. Unsteady. Like the body behind, it had nearly reached its limit. Noah shut the journal gently, not because he was finished, because he couldn't stay inside it for long. He returned it to the shelf and walked to Daniel's closet. The box remained. This time he wasn't searching for answers. He was looking for something practical, something that could help. camera, tools, old certificates, then a small sealed envelope beneath the toolbox. No label, no explanation. After a hesitation, he opened it. Cash, not much, but enough. And a handwritten note. I was going to use this if things got worse. Noah stared at the words. His father had always been preparing for collapse, just hoping it never came. He carefully returned everything, not because he didn't need it, because he finally understood. Every plan Daniel made had backup pain hidden inside it. A sound outside froze him. Footsteps. Then the lock clicked. Daniel was home. Noah quickly left the closet and sat near the couch. Daniel entered, carrying more paperwork than before. Tired, but steadier. Hey, you didn't leave? No. Daniel nodded and sat down. The papers landed on the table. We need to talk about moving plans tonight. Noah agreed, but his thoughts stayed on the envelope. The hidden emergency. The proof that even with help finally arriving, the damage was already done. And for the first time, Noah stopped thinking about how to save his father. Now, he started thinking about everything that had been lost to reach this moment. That night, the apartment no longer felt like home. It felt like a waiting room for change. Relocation papers covered the table. Daniel sat on one side, Noah on the other. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the soft tapping of Daniel's pen filled the silence. Finally, he broke it. We'll need to pack most things. Noah nodded. What about school? You'll transfer. Daniel paused. That part won't be easy. Noah lowered his eyes. Nothing has been easy. The pen stopped. Daniel said nothing, because it was true. A knock interrupted the room. Both looked up. Daniel opened the door. The building manager stood outside. Same tired face, different purpose. This is the final notice, he said quietly. Daniel accepted the paper. He already understood. The eviction timeline had been shortened. Less than a week remained. Noah noticed the shift in his expression. Small, but visible. The manager glanced toward Noah. I delayed it as long as I could. I know, Daniel replied. The door closed. The silence returned heavier than before. What does it say? Noah asked. Daniel handed him the notice. Noah read it slowly. There was no shock left. Only confirmation. Okay, Daniel studied him. You're not scared? After a moment, Noah answered. I already knew. Daniel blinked. Since when? Noah ignored the question. Are we taking everything? Daniel looked around the apartment. Every corner carried memories of struggle. Yes. A pause. Everything we can carry. That night they packed. No dramatic speeches. No tears. Just steady work. Boxes. Clothes. Old belongings. Tape. Ceiling cardboard echoed through the rooms. Everything felt heavier than it should. Noah packed his school supplies carefully. Daniel folded clothes in silence. At one point, he stopped at an old photograph. A younger Noah beside him, both smiling. Before survival became their entire life. Keeping that? Noah asked. Daniel nodded. Yes. The photo went into a box marked important. Hours passed. Eventually, Noah spoke again. Where are we going? Temporary housing first, Daniel said. Then the new city will arrange something better. Noah nodded, but his gaze lingered on the half-empty apartment. The feeling wasn't fear or sadness. It was loss without closure. Later, Daniel fell asleep on the couch from exhaustion. Noah stayed awake. The journal had shown sacrifice. The job offer had shown escape. But the apartment showed something else. The cost of time, and how much of it his father had given away without asking for anything back. Looking at Daniel asleep, Noah realized he was no longer worried only about the future. He was beginning to understand what it had already taken to reach it. And that understanding felt heavier than fear. Morning arrived with boxes stacked against the walls. The apartment no longer felt lived in. It felt paused mid-life. Daniel stood by the window, holding a small checklist. Noah sat on the floor tying his shoes. Neither spoke at first. Then Daniel broke the silence. Truck comes tomorrow morning. Noah nodded. Daniel continued. We'll leave right after. Another nod. Simple answers. But nothing about it felt simple. A notification sound came from Daniel's phone. He checked it. His expression tightened slightly. Noah noticed. What is it? Daniel hesitated. First paycheck adjustment from the new role. Noah stood up. Is it less? Daniel shook his head. No. A pause. More. That changed the air slightly. Not relief. Not celebration. Just acknowledgement that things were finally moving in a different direction. Daniel put the phone down, then looked at Noah. I want to ask you something. Noah waited. Daniel spoke carefully. When we move, I want you to tell me if something feels wrong. Noah frowned slightly. Like what? Anything. A pause. I missed too many things before. Noah didn't respond immediately, then nodded. Okay. That answer mattered more than it should have. Because it wasn't just agreement. It was trust being rebuilt slowly. Later that day, Daniel went out to finalize housing arrangements. Noah stayed alone again. But this time, the silence didn't feel as heavy. It felt transitional. He sat on the floor near the packed boxes, then noticed something. One box wasn't sealed properly. He walked over, opened it slightly. Inside were Daniel's old work documents again. But this time, something new had been added. A printed form. Medical clearance recommendation. Noah frowned. He read further. Notes about fatigue, dizziness, low nutrition concerns. His hands tightened. He hadn't seen this before. Daniel hadn't mentioned it. Noah's chest tightened slightly, because suddenly, it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about physical limits. Real ones. Human ones. He carefully placed the paper back, then sat down, thinking, if Daniel kept pushing like this, even with a better job coming, would his body even catch up? A knock came at the door. Noah froze, then opened it. A delivery man stood there, holding a small package. Daniel Carter? Noah nodded. It's for him. He signed quickly, closed the door. The package was light, too light to matter, but when he opened it, inside was a simple letter from the staffing office. Final confirmation of start date. And one additional line. Please ensure full physical readiness upon arrival. Noah read it twice, then slowly sat down again. Full physical readiness. He looked toward the bedroom, where Daniel would sleep later, and for the first time, Noah wasn't just thinking about moving forward anymore. He was thinking about whether his father was actually strong enough to survive the life they were moving into. Because sometimes, a better future still asks for more than a tired body can give. Daniel came home late again, but this time, something was different in his walk. Not worse, not better, just slower, like his body was obeying him a little less than before. Noah noticed immediately. You okay? Noah asked as Daniel set his keys down. Daniel nodded. Just long day of paperwork. He tried to smile. It didn't fully land. Noah didn't push, but he watched more carefully now. Every movement, every pause, every breath. Daniel opened the fridge out of habit, stared inside, closed it again, then leaned lightly against the counter for a second, longer than necessary. Noah saw that too. Dad, Noah said softly. Daniel looked up. Yeah, sit down. Daniel almost refused, almost said, I'm fine, but something in Noah's voice stopped him. So he sat, slowly, on the edge of the chair. A moment passed, then Daniel exhaled. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. Noah nodded. I know. Daniel looked at him. You ready for the move? Noah hesitated, then answered honestly. Yes. A pause, then softer, but not for everything else. Daniel frowned slightly. What do you mean? Noah looked down. You're tired. Silence. Daniel didn't deny it. That alone said enough. I'm fine, he said finally, but his voice lacked strength. Noah stood up and walked to him. Let me help carry something tomorrow. Daniel immediately shook his head. No, Noah, I can carry boxes, Noah interrupted. A pause. I'm not fragile. That hit something in Daniel. He looked at his son for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Okay, he said quietly. Noah blinked slightly. He didn't expect agreement that fast. Daniel added, light ones. A faint smile crossed Noah's face. Deal. Later that night, Daniel went to bed earlier than usual. Exhaustion was catching up in visible ways. Now, Noah stayed awake, sitting on the floor near the boxes, thinking again. But this time, not just about the journal, not just about sacrifice, about tomorrow, about movement, about leaving a place that had held both pain and love in equal measure. Then something unexpected happened. Daniel's phone buzzed on the table. Noah looked at it, then picked it up. A message preview was visible. From the staffing office. Final reminder, arrival fitness required. Any concerns must be reported before start date. Noah stared at it, longer than before, then looked at his father sleeping on the couch. And for the first time, he allowed himself to think something he had been avoiding. What if better life was coming at the exact moment? Daniel's body could no longer keep up with it. The thought didn't feel like fear. It felt like urgency, and urgency always leads to decisions. Noah placed the phone back down carefully, then sat in silence until morning came closer, because now, the move wasn't just about leaving. It was about whether Daniel would make it through the transition without breaking first. Morning arrived with no softness. The moving truck was already downstairs when Daniel and Noah carried out their final boxes. The driver checked paperwork nearby, barely looking up. Everything felt mechanical, final. Daniel set down a box and winced. "You hurt?" Noah asked. Daniel shook his head. "No, just stiff." But Noah noticed how long he paused before straightening. They began loading, box after box. Daniel insisted Noah carry only the lighter ones. This time, Noah didn't argue. He simply watched. Halfway through, Daniel climbed into the truck to stack items. He moved slower than usual, careful with every step. Noah passed boxes up from below. Then Daniel hesitated. Just a second, he steadied himself on a metal rail. "Dad, I'm fine," Daniel called down too quickly. A moment later, he climbed back down. His foot touched the ground, and for an instant he swayed. Barely noticeable, but Noah saw it. Daniel recovered immediately and forced a smile. "Let's finish this." Noah's chest tightened. This wasn't just exhaustion anymore. It was strain breaking through control. They finished loading. Paperwork was signed. Keys were handed over. The apartment door closed behind them for the last time. Neither moved. Daniel stood still, Noah beside him. The silence felt heavier than any box. "That's it," Daniel said quietly. "Yeah." They turned toward the street. The next chapter was waiting. But during the walk to the temporary housing pickup point, Daniel slowed again. Not dramatically, just enough for Noah to match his pace. Then match it again. Finally Noah spoke. "Dad." Daniel looked over. "Your hands are shaking." Daniel immediately closed them into fists. "I'm just tired." This time Noah said nothing. He was watching everything now, the delayed reactions, the shorter breaths, the way Daniel kept adjusting his posture as if trying to reset his body. By the time they reached the pickup point, Noah had stopped seeing tired. He was seeing something worse. The van arrived and they climbed in. Noah watched the city pass outside while Daniel leaned back and closed his eyes. Just for a moment. Except he didn't open them again for a long time. For the first time since finding the journal, Noah wasn't thinking about sacrifice. He was thinking about warning signs. Because moving forward meant nothing. Daniel couldn't physically reach the future they were fighting for. And a new fear began forming. Not losing the apartment, not losing money, but losing his father while trying to save their future. The temporary housing building was nothing like Daniel had described. Not bad, just unfamiliar. A narrow hallway, neutral walls, the smell of cleaning chemicals trying to hide age. They were given a small room, 2 beds, a table, a window facing a parking lot. Noah stepped inside first, looking around quietly. Daniel followed and set down the last bag. "This is temporary," he said. "I know." Neither moved, because temporary still meant starting over inside unfamiliar walls. Daniel sat on the edge of one bed. Immediately, his posture changed. Like sitting wasn't a choice anymore, it was necessary. No one noticed. "You should lie down." "I'm fine." This time Noah didn't argue. He unpacked instead, folding clothes, organizing what little they had, creating structure where none existed. Daniel watched him. "You don't have to do all that." "I want to." Silence. Then Daniel rubbed his forehead and stayed there a little too long. Noah looked over. "Dad." Daniel raised his head. "Your breathing is different." "I'm just tired from the drive." Noah stepped closer. "Since when does tired make you stop talking in full sentences?" The question landed harder than expected. Daniel tried to answer, then stopped halfway and exhaled instead. The fatigue wasn't just visible now. It was deep, accumulated. "I just need a minute," he said quietly. Noah nodded, but stayed close. Minutes passed. Then Daniel stood too quickly. Immediately, he steadied himself against the wall. "Dad, I'm okay." But his voice sounded thinner this time. Noah shook his head. "Sit down." Daniel hesitated, then obeyed without argument. Noah handed him water. Daniel drank and leaned forward. "When was the last time you actually rested?" No answer. That silence said enough. "This isn't just tired." Daniel closed his eyes. "I've been managing. You've been surviving." Another silence. Outside, a car alarm sounded. Neither reacted. Something more important was happening inside that room. "I didn't want you to see this part," Daniel admitted. "I already did. A beat. Months ago." Daniel looked at his son differently now, not as a child needing protection, but as someone who had already seen too much. Then, for the first time, he said it plainly. "I might need help." Noah didn't answer immediately, because this was the first time his father had said it without pretending. Finally, he nodded. "Then we figure it out." Daniel closed his eyes. Not in defeat, in acceptance. For the first time in a long while, he stopped trying to stand through it. And in that small room, reality finally caught up to everything they had been ignoring. The night in the temporary room felt longer than the day. Daniel lay fully on the bed now, not sitting, not fighting it, just resting finally, but not peacefully. Noah stayed awake on the edge of the other bed, watching, listening. Every few minutes, he checked Daniel's breathing without realizing it. Not because silence scared him, because silence had started to feel unsafe. At some point, Daniel's phone lit up on the small table. A staffing office reminder. Start date confirmed. Tomorrow morning. Arrival mandatory. Noah read it and looked at his father. Daniel's eyes were closed, but he wasn't fully asleep. Noah walked over, picked up the phone, and stared at the screen. Tomorrow wasn't just a start date. It was a deadline his father's body had to survive. He set the phone down gently. "You're not okay." Daniel didn't open his eyes. "I will be." "No, not like this." A pause. Then Daniel looked at him. Tired. Completely honest. "What do you want me to do, Noah?" It wasn't defensive. It was real. "Rest." Daniel almost smiled. "That's not an option. It has to be." Silence settled between them. Finally, Daniel sat up. Just enough to face him. "I spent months making sure you never felt what I felt." Noah stepped closer. "And I spent days realizing you felt too much alone." Another silence. "I'm not asking you to stop being my dad," Noah said softly. A breath. "I'm asking you to stay alive while doing it." Daniel looked away. For the first time, this wasn't about money, work, or moving. It was about survival. "I don't know how to do both anymore." "Then we learn." Outside, parking lot, lights flickered through the window. Inside, something shifted. Not solved, not healed, but acknowledged. Daniel leaned back again. This time Noah sat beside him. No resistance, no pride, just presence. Minutes passed. Then Daniel spoke quietly. "If I can't keep up, tell them I tried." "No." Daniel frowned. "We don't plan for you failing." A pause. "We plan for you getting through tomorrow. And after tomorrow, we do the next day." Silence followed. But now, it felt less like collapse and more like direction. Hours later, Daniel finally fell into a deeper sleep. Not perfect, but real. Noah stayed awake longer, listening to the steady rhythm of breathing. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about sacrifice. He was thinking about maintenance, keeping something alive, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 moment at a time. And while the city kept moving outside, a father and son remained in that small room, not solving everything, but refusing to let it end there.